Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Things Private Practice podcast. I am joined today by a very good friend, repeat guest, Yunetta Spring Smith, who is a thriving therapreneur. Always get that word confused in my mouth. Blending her expertise as a therapist and entrepreneur. She is the owner of Springforth Counseling, Groundbreakers Coaching and Consulting, and the founder of the first BIPOC EMDR therapy directory. She is a licensed professional counselor, EMDR certified therapist, approved consultant, trainer, and international keynote speaker, specializing in supporting the healing of resilient children residing in adult bodies. Always love that line. Yunetta helps clients navigate intersections of historical neglect coupled with childhood, racial, and religious trauma. She's passionate about the BIPOC and marginalized community. She emphasizes the importance of race, culture, and identity and neurotype in her consultation, training, and overall therapeutic approach. Nationally recognized as a mental health media expert, she spreads awareness through the Talk It Out Tuesday mental health segment on the Ricky Smiley Morning Show and her upcoming rebranded podcast, Rewired from the Ground Up, and her self-published self-care workbook, Take the Struggle Out of Self-Care, 6 Weeks to Create Your Self-Care Strategy. Yunetta is a groundbreaker, stigma breaker, and cycle breaker who plants seeds of encouragement with every encounter. She strives to cultivate spaces where individuals can realize they are not broken, they are breaking through. One,
Yeah.
that was a lot for me to read. Two, it's well-deserved. And how do you feel about like receiving that when you're hearing, oh, damn, I'm that person behind all of that?
I know. I think last time we did this, you asked that question and I was like, It's like each time it gets a little, and this time I was like, yeah.
I think you literally made that noise.
Like I sure did afterwards. So I was like,
Yeah.
reflecting on the last time you read my bio, looking at hearing what's a little bit different and what's evolved, and noticing that my body was relaxed while hearing it.
I
Mhm.
like to hear that for sure. I
Yeah.
think it's well-deserved. And I have spent a lot of time traveling the world with you and hearing you speak and train. And one takeaway that I always have, and it's not just for myself and my experience, but people around me are always just so drawn to your messaging. But I
Mhm.
also think it's the way that you make the messaging relatable and
Mhm.
really affirming to different cultures, neurotypes, identities, taking that step back of being like, we don't have to do trauma training from this black and white perspective. And there are
Mhm.
so many factors to kind of look at and examine when we're doing this. And I just am internally grateful for everything you're putting into the world.
Thank you, friend. I am eternally grateful for opportunities and, the pushes, the nudges, the reminders,
The gut punches.
become the gut punches that we almost got banned for inciting violence on
Mhm.
Facebook for.
Yep.
Yeah, decode. So if y'all see like a GP behind a post, then that is a gut punch. We can't say gut punch online anymore. It will get us.
No,
So,
you can say all sorts of fucked up shit, but you can't say
like gut
people
punch.
gonna punch you.
Make it make sense. Make it make sense.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we started recording, we were kind of talking about pivoting, and I know you have had a big opportunity that is coming to an end.
Mhm.
And I also understand how it feels in a lot of ways to be like, I've had all these cool things happening, these experiences and these opportunities fizzling out for a lot of reasons. And then there's a point of like introspection, but also can obviously lead to overwhelm, anxiety, scarcity mindset, panic. And you mentioned something, and I already forgot your great one liner that when this stuff happens as entrepreneurs, we almost go back to recreating that environment where we become workaholics again, where we burn ourselves out to no end because we are so fearful of like, how do I ensure that I continue to create, but also continue to pay the bills?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. 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 Having these, opportunities, we work really hard for opportunities. We do a lot of things to kind of get in the position that we're in. And I think sometimes we forget what it took to get us kind of like because I'm, EMDR therapist and trainer, I look at things from that perspective oftentimes. Like, sometimes we can be so focused on the external results that we don't necessarily put as much energy on the internal part of what it took to produce that result, right? Like that stays with you. So what we were talking about is kind of like me being mindful not to go back into restored factory settings. So everybody know when you got a phone, you got all your pictures and your messages and everything in your phone, right? But when you go to turn that phone in or get rid of it, you can't turn it in or shift to something else until you clear out the settings because you don't want to send your stuff out there, right? So oftentimes when we go back to like when we have transitions, big changes, big pivots, we can tend to go back to like restoring factory settings. Like we go back to like the hustle, or that survival mindset that got us to where we are.
Yep.
And it takes a lot of intentionality and mindfulness not to go back to old ways of doing things to survive when you're in
Yeah.
that space of the unknown. So that's kind of where I am and what I'm navigating, trying to do it a different way.
That's really well said. And I think about that a lot when something that feels like you've put a lot of yourself into, or the relationships you've built, the risks you've taken start to pay off.
Mm-hmm.
Or to kind of see that compound and build, right? Like I remember being your friend when you were like going through the process of trying to become a certified EMDR consultant and trainer, and how many speed bumps there were and how many times you had to fall down and pick yourself up, and a lot of questioning of sense of self. And then you make it to this like summit or this pinnacle,
Mm-hmm.
and you start having different opportunities come in the door that you've worked so hard for. Simultaneously, though, oftentimes I think as entrepreneurs, especially neurodivergent ones, we are not paying attention to how much of us it has taken to get to that point. And we often leave those opportunities feeling unbelievably depleted.
Mhm.
And then when you have to start over again, you're almost trying to figure out like with what energy? Like I
Yeah.
have nothing left in the tank. And
Mhm.
now what comes next? Because capitalism, we do have to figure out ways to make money. And also it can be really daunting in those experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's like the effort and the energy that I use to get where I am, even the thought of going back to how I used to do things is not an option.
Right.
It's not an option. So it's like, how do I uh continue to, be okay, rise, operate from this, space of abundance. That's the word that's been coming up for me a lot is like flow and ease, like moving into things that feel may not necessarily be easy, but there's ease attached to it. And it's
Yep.
like me trying to force myself into spaces or rooms or doing that thing. One thing I think about is, and this is something I probably had a conversation with a friend. I was like, man, sometimes it's there's grief that comes along with healing
Yep.
in terms of I got my healing shirt on, but in terms of like sometimes that wound that you are navigating really drives you to do some amazing things, right? Like I don't care what people think about me as much as I used to.
Right.
And that drive to like really be super concerned with what people think really, just because of my personality, really pushed me to do a lot of things. Like, oh, you saying I can't do it? Watch me do it,
Yep.
So
Yep.
now it's like, okay. But it's like I need, you still kind of want a little bit of that fire and that passion to push you to get things done.
Yep.
And that could be like, an ADHD thing too. Like it's like that obstacle kind of drives you. So finding that internal motivation that's not coming from a place of a wound,
Mhm.
is there wisdom and how
Yep.
to move forward or how do I pivot? It's a different energy.
That's really well said. I
Hmm.
think that's such an important point to like reflect upon, because I do think you've talked about this in speaking opportunities and engagements elsewhere, but like um your wounds, your childhood wounds, your wounds as a human, they are often a part of your story in terms of your business ownership and your entrepreneurial journey. They have to be.
Mhm.
And they are often driving forces too. Either you're operating from like trauma reaction and you're like, I'm in survival mode, but that's making me go, go, go and create, create, create. And
It's
unfortunately, yeah.
Mhm.
And the world, unfortunately, oftentimes rewards you for that. And it's like, ooh, look how productive Yunetta is. And look how accomplished. Look at all these creations that she's had over the last couple of years. But in reality, operating from that nervous system that feels really dysregulated and unsafe and just trying to protect yourself at all costs. So with
Mhm.
a little bit of healing, then you're starting to think about like, okay, how do I motivate myself to continue to create or to do things that I want to accomplish in my career? And where is that coming from? Like what place is that coming from for me? What's the motivating factor? I always think about like
Mhm.
watched the new Kevin Hart stand up last night. He's talking a lot of shit about Michael Jordan. And I was thinking about Michael Jordan, how he used to make up stories in games to motivate him to play harder. And that came out as like him being like, yeah, I told myself this player was talking shit about my family and that player had never mentioned him in his life.
Uh-huh.
Damn, once you get to this place of a little bit more healing, a little
Mhm.
bit more regulation, you're kind of approaching creativity from a different perspective and a different facet.
Yeah. And it's like, oh man, I can't if I'm thinking about somebody like talking shit about me, I'm like, oh man, I wonder what they're going through. It's like, no,
Yep, yep, yep.
be mad, be angry. But it's like I can't help but see I always play around and say the sixth sense. I see dead people. For me,
Mhm.
it's like I see nervous systems, right? Like I'm seeing behind what I'm seeing. So it's just a different energy and it still can move. It's just being intentional about how things move now.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Being mindful that I'm doing and choosing things that are not just going to give me that quick survival boost, but something that's going to be sustainable.
Yep.
That makes sense, that's not going to wear me out or have me back in the hospital, you know.
Yes.
That was like
That was a wake-up call for sure, right?
a big wake up call.
Yeah.
So,
It's your body screaming like, "You've pushed
mhm,
me beyond my limits." But
mhm,
not paying attention to the red flags, and then you're just, like, inevitably collapsing, and
mhm,
that's fucking scary, and
mhm,
that's really common theme and story for a lot of small business owners is that story of, like, I have burnt myself out so badly. Whether it's because you're trying to prove something to someone or you're trying to heal a part of yourself or because you get kind of addicted to the success and creation process or you're chasing the dopamine, like your body inevitably collapses under the pressure of trying to sustain that because it's not sustainable
mhm,
operating that way. And I think social media paints this picture that it is,
mhm,
which is not helpful. And I think one thing that you mentioned about I'm not going to chase the quick things anymore that are going to burn me out or deplete me. It's really hard sometimes for those of you who are ADHDers who need that dopamine hit. Or
mhm,
I am operating from a low dopamine system and I'm seeking it at all
mhm,
fucking costs. And that is so hard to then turn down those like quick wins, because it's really easy to do that and be like, "Oh, that felt really good. I can sustain for another couple of weeks or days." And that's just not a reality that feels like there's long-term success there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Being able to sit in it for a minute before I make did that rhyme?
It did rhyme. I was wondering if you did that on purpose or if that just came out of your mouth.
Happens. I think, be flowing, it'll be flowing. If you don't,
Yeah.
but being able to sit in it for a minute before you make that decision,
Yeah.
so that's something, I've been doing. Sometimes if it's like, I want to do it, it's cool. But being able to zoom in and zoom out. Like,
Yeah.
okay, for now, what's this look like 3 months from now?
Yep.
Right now, but what is this? How's this going to deplete? You're in it. What do you already have?
Yep.
That you're responsible for. I think it was in June. I can't even remember how many speaking engagements I had, but it was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know,
You're traveling a lot.
it was like back to back trainings. Then it was like Scotland. Then it was like before that, it was Spain. And it was like all of this stuff had been pre planned.
Africa.
And yeah, but then I had a whole bunch of opportunities pop up that were exciting and I accepted all of them. And
Yeah.
that transition period before September. And it was like, okay, after the next thing, I'm going to chill and sit down. After the next thing, I'm going to chill and sit down. And my
Yeah.
body was like, okay,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
got
Yep. Same
you.
boat. Same boat. Same boat. Yeah, it's so hard when those opportunities pop up and you're like, "Ooh, that sounds exciting," or "That does sound like something I want to do." Especially when your whole year has almost been pre-planned to be like, now I have to start fitting things in like a game of like Tetris.
Mhm,
But then your body certainly can say like, "We need to wave the white flag and you need to be still for a little bit." And
mhm,
I talked about this on here a couple weeks ago, ending up in the ER from like massive burnout and just pushing myself so far beyond my limits that my body was just like, yeah, fuck this. I'm done. You're not
mhm,
going to, your brain is not going to stop. So I'm going to stop you. And that is not a fun place to be. And
mhm,
before we started recording, you were talking about recreating the wheel.
mhm,
Because I was mentioning like you should start really marketing neuroaffirming EMDR trainings and just trauma training in general because the way you approach it is so much more neuro inclusive than the norm. And
mhm,
you're like, that means I have to recreate the wheel. But in reality, you've already got the wheel. You're just like maybe making some modifications. And I think that's the big difference when we're talking about like the evolution of entrepreneurship is like you don't have to go recreate the wheel now with what you've got. You've already got this established foundation. Now it's
mhm,
about just like making some edits and some tweaks and some revisions to better suit your passion and your need. And
mhm,
I think that's the difference between like those of us like ourselves who maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we were definitely creating a lot of wheels. And
mhm,
it's cool where we've ended up. And I
mhm.
also think we've
Yeah.
paid a price for it too.
Absolutely. Yeah. For sure, for sure. And that when I think like as you were saying wheel, I was just thinking about, what does a wheel do, right? It's moving. It's moving forward. It's constantly moving forward. And it's one thing to be stuck. Like with EMDR, we talk about when people are like looping and they're stuck on the same, like, I feel this, I feel this, I feel this, right? We want folks to be moving, like where they may circulate, but things are kind of moving forward,
Right.
right? So it's like that recreating the wheel. It's like it's not starting. You might be starting over with something, but you're not necessarily starting from scratch,
Right.
right? So you're able to I can take things that I've learned over time and integrate it into what I have to make it something that's going to help me to move forward. Where we get
Exactly.
stuck is when we say, oh, this worked back then. Let me go do exactly what I did back then that worked when right now I'm in a different place.
Yep.
I have different
Absolutely.
responsibilities. I'm older. I have
Yep.
different things going on so that what I was able to do then to be okay and if I try to do that now, it's not going to be okay.
No.
That's-
And I think one other thing that I think about when you're talking about this, about like back then versus now, you
Mhm,
and I and a lot of people like ourselves probably were doing it all of ourselves, right? Like creating, editing, posting, content creation, putting ourselves into all of these opportunities. And I think fast forward to now, I
mhm,
think we both have hired support in certain areas too, because one thing that is about like not recreating a wheel, I don't want to go back and make similar mistakes that I've made in the past that took a lot of energy, financial resource, stress, um, depleted me unnecessarily. If I can avoid those pitfalls and kind of step around them or jump over them, knowing like this is what happens if you go back to what you were doing. It saves a lot of heartache. It saves a lot of aggravation. It saves a lot of overwhelm and stress, allows
mhm.
you to focus more on like the here and now. And you can kind of start future casting too.
For sure. Yeah. Because every pit has a tip inside of it, right? Every time there's a PIT, you get a tip. Reverse that, right? And you get something. If you look at it and you learn from it, there's something that you can kind of adjust and tweak. to
Yeah.
be able to move forward. So being able to take those moments as information to inform your next decision, you know, is kind of
I
what I'm
love
trying to navigate.
all of your imagery and metaphors and all of these lines. This is exactly why you need to hire her, by the way. For those of you listening, and you're like, I need trauma training, I need EMDR consulting. This is what I'm talking about. Like, never blowing smoke about the quality of trainer and speaker that you are. And I just wish my brain worked like that sometimes. I feel so like slow inside all of most of the time. But I've learned, like, for myself, and this is important for those of you listening, like, for me as an ADHDer, I have wild energy spikes and wild energy crashes. There is no in between.
Mhm.
I used to beat the shit out of myself for that and like think it was me that was just not following through or unable to do the thing. And now I'm like, when you have the energy, you do the thing.
Yeah.
Acknowledging that 90% of the other time the energy is not there. You are not going to force it. You are not going to be able to just manifest it out of nowhere. You have to like trust that intuitive and energetic process of like, I know this is like a roller coaster for me, and to start accepting that instead of fighting against that neurology. Because ultimately, when I'm fighting against it and resisting it, that's when I don't find myself in my window of like creativity and flow
Yep.
and genius. That's when I find myself panicked, feeling a lot of pressure, a lot of self doubt, a lot of dread, making bad impulsive choices, not seeing certain things like bad business relationships and partnerships, like because I'm so much operating in that dysregulated state in those times, trying to be like, got to force the creativity, got to get the flow back, got to figure out where that magic came from. And now
Mhm.
just trusting that it
Yeah.
really is like an ebb and flow type of wave process.
Yeah. Yep. While you're telling that story, right? Because my brain is like, it's like it's
Sense
here.
emotions.
It's like right. So when you were talking about that, I was like, wow, like you're riding the wave, right? Of those ebbs and flows, and not trying to force yourself because it's gonna come,
Yep.
right? And if it comes and you're beating yourself up for it, then you're gonna get beat up by the wave and yourself, right? Which makes it worse. When we were in, just came back from Costa Rica with Gabsters, and when we was out there, Gabrielle, we were out there because I can't swim, right? So we are in the ocean, and the wave was coming, and my instant reaction to the wave was right. So I turned my back and I'm trying to, but I don't know how big it is. I don't know how fast it's coming. My instant reaction is to turn my back to the wave. So
Love
one thing Gab said was, she said, "You never turn your back on the ocean." She be out there surfing and shit. So she
her.
never turn your back on the ocean. So every time the wave was coming, I wanted to, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna turn. Relax your body and don't turn your back on it. And I was able to kind of ride it, and
Yeah.
not one time I fell. And it was funny, but for the most part, I was able to just kind of ride it or whatever. So I thought about that as you were saying that, because when these big obstacles come, or these pivots and shifts come, sometimes we want to turn and run back to what we know, run back to that way of doing things that we did before. But if
Yep.
we don't turn our back to it, face it, because if we're facing it, then I can make a conscious, wise, informed decision about what's coming.
Yep.
So that was a visual when you were talking about that.
No, that's actually a great visual. It's well said because I think when we find ourselves in these places of accomplishment and creation, and we have more time to sit with it and to
Mhm.
kind of pick it apart and appreciate more moments of it too. At least I'm trying to. I can't say that that's factual for me, but trying.
Process. Mhm.
I think it's important not to run back to the things that used to be able to serve you. And I'll
Mhm.
use an example of like I know with like guarantee that I could go back to private practice coaching and
Mhm.
do courses again and doing all sorts of startup shit and make
Mhm.
money. And I fucking hate it. And I hate it so much. And it does not fill me up. It does not bring me joy. And
Mhm.
if I'm going back to that, then I am in reactionary mode, right?
Yeah.
I am
Mhm,
turning away from the wave and I am running for my life. And I
mhm,
am like trying to hold on to the things that I know that can keep me safe or at least secure.
mhm,
But I think it also means that it's going to take an enormous amount of energy because if you're not passionate about it, it's going to take a hell of a lot more to get you, through that moment. And I don't have that capacity anymore. And I have to be really mindful about how I allocate the energy that I have because it
mhm,
feels so fleeting and so limited. And it feels like a very unique resource that I do not always get to access. And I just want to be so much more intentional about
mhm.
the yeses and about where I'm going to put my energy in general. And I know
Yeah.
that can feel really scary because opportunities come up, partnerships come up, uh,
Mhm,
money comes and goes, and it can create a lot of stress and uncertainty.
mhm.
And I think it's just important to like face it, like you're saying, and just really allow yourself to see all of it instead of turning and running and just doing the one thing that feels familiar or somewhat comfortable.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Because it's a difference between like survival and sustainability. And I think for me as a Black woman, I also have to leave room and space for the fact that it makes sense why I would be wired to go back to what is survival
Yep.
because the opportunities or the abilities or the access, is can be is limited, in some spaces. So,
Yep.
being able to acknowledge that and honor it and then not shaming. This isn't like to shame anybody who chooses to go back to whatever it is that they're doing. Because even if you go back, you can go quote unquote back with a different mindset. You
Yep.
can go back with a different, you can go back and say, hey, I'm going to see this type of client, if you're a private practice, or I'm going to do this, but then I'm also going to make room for other things that was draining and depleting. So it's just using that wisdom um, as you move forward to not just look at what's going to help you survive, but also what's going to be sustainable.
Yep.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Well said. Very, very, very well said. Um, yeah, I'm thinking like I also think about the liminal space and all this, the in between, and
Hmm.
that's a place I don't enjoy being.
Not
Uh,
at all.
My neurotypes will collide here, where ADHD right now in my system is quite restless, and
Mhm.
autism has won the battle for once, where it's like rest and restoration and sameness,
Mhm.
and that's a place I really struggle with. So I'm just like trying harder to just honor that, acknowledge it out loud. Like, I struggle in this space. I'm gonna be restless. I'm gonna be uncomfortable. That's
Mhm.
okay right now. Um, and just really trying harder to just allow myself to be. And that
Mhm.
has always been very, very difficult.
Yeah, yeah. That gray area.
Hmm. Not my favorite color, not my favorite place to be.
Yeah. My autistic clients, I like, what's the gray? Let's find the gray. Gray look like? And it's like, oh, fuck the gray. And I'm like, I know, but what is it? Let's just even look at what does the gray look like?
Mhm.
And how can I be stable and secure enough? Knowing that it may not be, it's not ideal, not regulated, but just if
Yep.
it's regulated enough in the gray, what does that look like? But it is a difficult place to be. I don't like it either.
Yeah. And I hope for both of our sakes that, you know, in a couple of months to a year, we're both sitting here thinking about this moment of like introspection, what comes next,
Mhm.
facing the wave and really not trying to run from it and
Yeah.
just trusting that everything in our personal lives has brought us to these moments and we've worked really fucking hard
Mhm.
and that things will continue to unfold the way that they're supposed to for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. I look forward to that.
All
I
right.
what to that.
As we get ready to wrap, what do you have coming up and where can people find it? And we will have this in the show notes for all of you too, so that you have access to everything Yunetta says or lists.
Hmm. What I got coming up. So first up is the cruise that's coming up January 3rd through the 10th, going out of Puerto Rico with lovely Jennifer Agee. We're doing invisible wounds, healing childhood invisible wounds. So that's going to be fun. I'm super excited about that. I think we have like one spot left for South Africa in February, which is always a lovely experience. It's just like an experience. Love South Africa. This will be our third year going. And then I don't know, Shailene got spots left for Disney.
Yep.
She might have opened up a few, so we'll be in. We can't get Patrick to agree to come.
Yeah, it's not happening.
It's not happening. Absolutely not happening. But he did, you know. Did you put yours on? No, you put the thing on your shoulder.
I put yours on for her and just to tease her, you know.
So that's about as good as it's gonna get.
This is gonna get.
But that's in February. Yeah, outside of that, I'm getting my advanced trainings coming up. So that will be coming up. So that'll be on my Groundbreaker site. And then my basic trainings. I got my virtual trainings out for the whole year. So if you need a basic training or a refresher, so if you got trained in EMDR before, you need to refresh. I'm encouraging people to do that because it's a different experience, you know. And then consultations. So if you want that continued consultations, I'm opening up my consultation and my CIT consultations next year. So
great. We'll have everything that Yunetta just listed. So if you want to get EMDR trained, if you want to continue your advanced training, if you want to consult, if you need that support and guidance, that will all be in the show notes, as well as Yunetta's cruise from Puerto Rico to Aruba and everywhere else that she's going to be. She's also speaking at the Doubt Yourself, Do It Anyway Summit in Portland, Maine, September 1st to the 3rd. Come check that summit out with one of the worst summit hosts TripAdvisor's ever had. And I'll start just making fun of myself like that. So people are like, yeah. So anyway, September 1st to the 3rd in Portland, Maine, 13 speakers, 9 CEs. Doubt yourself, do it anyway. And we will see you next week.